The Detroit Lions have just done something that could redefine the way this franchise operates for the next decade. They've activated what feels like an NFL cheat code. Think back to those old-school video game days, when you'd type in the secret sequence that suddenly made everything easier, faster, and better. That's what this moment feels like in Detroit. The difference now is, it's not pixels on a screen, it's Dan Campbell on the sideline, headset on, glasses perched low, play sheet in hand, and a look that tells you he's seeing the game 3 steps ahead of everyone else. What's happening in Detroit isn't luck, it's evolution. So go ahead and smash that like button to show some love to our channel. If you look back at the Lions' trajectory under Campbell, the story writes itself. The early years were rough, rebuilding always is, but year 2, 9-8, year 3, 12-5, year 4, 15-2, and now, sitting at 6-3 in 2025, the team has built not just momentum, but identity. The big revelation? Dan Campbell himself has taken control of the play-calling duties. It's not the first time he's done it either. In 2021, when the Lions' offense was struggling badly under Anthony Lynn, Campbell stepped in around week 13. The results? Immediate transformation. For 10 straight weeks before that moment, Detroit hadn't scored more than 20 points. But when Campbell grabbed the play sheet, something flipped. The offense came alive. They dropped 29 points on the Vikings, then 30 just weeks later. Those weren't flukes. Those were signs, small sparks that hinted at the fire he's fully unleashed now. It's easy to overlook how rare this is. In today's NFL, every team is chasing the next offensive mastermind, the next play-calling prodigy who can unlock their potential. But the list of head coaches who can actually handle both, running the team and running the offense, is short. Andy Reid in Kansas City, Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, Sean Payton back in his Saints days. Guys who have both the vision and the control to keep a system consistent year after year. Detroit may finally have joined that list. Campbell has proven he can build culture, command respect, and motivate like no one else. But now, he's showing he can also design and execute an offense at an elite level. That combination? That's the cheat code. Think about what it means in practical terms. The Lions have spent the past few years worrying every offseason about whether Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, would bolt for a head coaching job. Every year, the rumor mill spun faster. Every year, Campbell and Brad Holmes had to brace for what might come next. And this time, it finally happened. Johnson left, heading to Chicago, where he now has the Bears sitting neck and neck with Detroit in the standings. But here's the key question. What if this offense was never just Ben Johnson's creation? What if the DNA, the vision, the rhythm, the aggression, always came from Campbell himself? When you go back and watch the Lions' offensive identity from the start, you can see his fingerprints all over it. The balance between physicality and creativity, the willingness to go for it on 4th down, to punch instead of punt, to keep the foot on the gas no matter the opponent. That's pure Dan Campbell. The difference now is that he's not just the motivator or the decision maker, he's the architect. He's scripting the attack himself, and the early results say it all. The offense looks looser, sharper, more unpredictable. Even against weaker defenses like Washington's, the execution was crisp and confident, a reflection of a team that knows who it is and where it's going. So go ahead and smash that like button to show some love to our channel. But the real test comes next. The Philadelphia Eagles, one of the best defenses in football, giving up barely over 20 points a game, stand in the way. They've allowed only 192 total points through 9 games, and last week they completely shut down Green Bay, holding them to just 7. If Detroit can drop close to 30 on that defense, then the conversation shifts. It won't just be about the Lions being good, it'll be about the Lions being built to last. Because when you have a head coach who can handle the offensive duties himself, you remove one of the biggest threats to long-term success in the NFL, instability. You never have to replace your play caller. You never have to fear losing your offensive identity. You never have to rebuild your system around someone new. It's continuity, the rarest commodity in this league. Dan Campbell has effectively merged 2 of the 3 most important roles in football, head coach and offensive coordinator, into one. That's not just efficient, it's visionary. Pair that with a general manager like Brad Holmes, who's consistently found the right players to fit the system, and you've got the foundation of a dynasty. It's why Lions fans aren't just celebrating wins anymore, they're starting to believe that this is sustainable, that this is what real success looks like. It means everything changes. It means Detroit no longer has to live in fear of losing its offensive soul every offseason. For years, Lions fans have watched the same story play out across the league. A team gets hot because of a bright young offensive coordinator, he gets poached for a head coaching job, and suddenly the system collapses. Continuity dies, chemistry resets, and progress evaporates. But that's not happening in Detroit anymore. Not if Dan Campbell keeps the headset and the play sheet in his hands. The offense will live and breathe with his voice. That's the kind of stability franchises spend decades chasing. Look around the league. Andy Reid has built a dynasty doing exactly this. Patrick Mahomes might be the magician on the field, but Reid is the architect behind every trick, every motion, every misdirection. Kyle Shanahan's 49ers operate the same way. No matter who's at quarterback, the system hums because it's designed by the same mind that coaches the team. When Campbell took over play calling duties again, it wasn't about ego, it was about alignment, about every single snap reflecting the culture he's built. Grit, precision, controlled chaos, that's Detroit football now. And when your head coach calls the plays, every decision, every drive, every adjustment echoes the same heartbeat. Let's not forget where this started. In 2021, this franchise had no identity. The offense was lifeless. It was Anthony Lynn's playbook, but not Campbell's spirit. Then, when he took control, it was like flipping a switch. Suddenly, this team wasn't just trying to survive games, it was dictating them. The players fed off that energy. The locker room believed. Even with no-name receivers, no established quarterback, and a roster still under construction, they started putting points on the board and competing like a team that refused to be overlooked. Fast forward to now, and that same fire is burning brighter than ever, only this time, the roster is built to match it. And that's where Brad Holmes' fingerprints matter. He's assembled a team that fits Campbell's aggressive, physical style. Every draft pick, every signing, every move feels intentional, from the trenches to the secondary. And now, with Campbell steering the offense himself, that synergy is complete. It's rare to see a head coach and GM so perfectly aligned, but when it happens, it creates something powerful. Think about New England in its prime, Kansas City in its current form, San Francisco's sustained success, all born from continuity between philosophy and execution. Detroit has entered that realm. There's also the psychological side of it, the tone this sets for the entire organization. When the players see their head coach taking over the play calling, it signals ownership, accountability, leadership that doesn't just talk about fixing problems but gets directly involved in solving them. Campbell's not delegating belief, he's embodying it. That matters in a locker room full of players who've bought into his message since day one. The man who preached bite a kneecap off energy is now channeling that same ferocity into every offensive sequence. And when your players see that, it hits different. Of course, the upcoming showdown with the Eagles is where theory meets reality. Philly's defense isn't just good, it's disciplined, suffocating, and built to exploit mistakes. This game will reveal whether Campbell's offensive vision truly holds up against elite opposition. But if the Lions can light up the scoreboard even moderately against that front seven, then the conversation shifts for good. Because that would mean Detroit's success isn't circumstantial, it's structural, it's designed to last. And let's be real, Lions fans deserve this kind of hope. For decades, this city has waited for more than just flashes of greatness. They've waited for something real, something built on a foundation that won't crumble the moment a coordinator leaves or a star player gets hurt. What Dan Campbell is building, play by play, looks like that kind of foundation. You can feel it in the way this team responds, the way they execute, and the way they carry themselves, like a team that expects to win, not one that's surprised when it does. This is what sustainable success looks like in the NFL, a head coach who not only motivates but masters the game's technical side. The Lions finally have that, and it changes everything. The fear of regression is gone. The belief in long-term dominance is real. Dan Campbell might not just be Detroit's coach, he might be its blueprint for the future. Now tell me, Lions fans, do you think this version of Dan Campbell, the head coach and the offensive mind combined, is the formula that finally brings a championship to Detroit? Because if it is, then what we're witnessing isn't just another hot streak, it's the beginning of a new era. Think about what it means for the players on this roster. When the guy designing the plays is also the man leading the team, every meeting, every film session, every practice rep becomes unified under one voice. There's no disconnect between the philosophy and the execution. The message is streamlined. The accountability is total. When Campbell talks about biting kneecaps, it's not just a slogan anymore, it's a tactical mindset that's woven into the playbook itself. Every motion, every call, every risk embodies that relentless energy. You can see it in how the players have responded. The offense looks freer, not reckless, but liberated. There's confidence in the way they approach the game, a trust that the plan makes sense because it comes straight from the top. And for a team that's built its reputation on resilience, that matters. It's one thing to have a great play caller in the booth. It's another to have a head coach on the sideline calling the game with the same intensity he demands from his players. That shared adrenaline, that emotional sync, gives Detroit a competitive edge few teams can match. This is also where culture and strategy meet. Campbell isn't reinventing football, he's refining it. His approach to play calling feels simple on the surface: physical run game, heavy play action, calculated aggression, but beneath it is a deep understanding of timing, rhythm, and trust. It's about knowing your players well enough to put them in positions where their strengths shine. It's about calling plays that fit not just your system, but your identity. That's the kind of cohesion that great coaches have. And now, Campbell is entering that territory. And the best part? It sets up Detroit for long-term dominance. If the offense continues to hum with Campbell calling plays, the Lions will never have to chase offensive identity again. Every time another team loses its coordinator and has to rebuild its system from scratch, Detroit will keep rolling with the same vision, the same rhythm, the same philosophy. It's the kind of consistency that builds dynasties. You keep your voice, you keep your culture, and most importantly, you keep your momentum. Look at the ripple effect it has on the rest of the staff. 2. When you know the offensive direction is steady, it allows your defensive coaches to focus entirely on their side of the ball without worrying about systemic changes. It stabilizes the locker room. It attracts free agents who want to be part of something dependable. It strengthens the front office's confidence in how to build. Everything becomes easier when the foundation doesn't shift. That's what Dan Campbell has given Detroit, a blueprint that eliminates uncertainty. But beyond the X's and O's, there's an emotional current running through this team that's impossible to ignore. The players love playing for this guy. You can see it on their faces, in their body language, in the way they fight through 4 quarters like they're playing for more than just stats or contracts. They're playing for him. And now that he's in control of the offense, that connection has deepened. When the coach who motivates you also calls your number, it creates a unique kind of trust, a kind of bond that translates into execution, into wins. And yet, the question still lingers: how far can this go? Can Campbell sustain this level of creative control without it wearing him down? Can he balance the emotional demands of leadership with the intellectual grind of calling plays week after week? Those are fair questions, and they'll define the next stage of this